The Detroit Lions have extended defensive end Aiden Hutchinson. I'm John Macaroon, Detroit Lions on SI. Finally, many of us were waiting all summer, all offseason to discover what the Lions were going to pay and commit to defensive end Aiden Hutchinson. And what happened over the course of the offseason was wild. The market just blew up with Trey Hendrickson, with Myles Garrett, with Micah Parsons. So now we know the Lions have locked up Aiden Hutchinson for at least the next 5 years. Signs a 4-year contract extension worth $180 million, $45 million annually, and $141 million guaranteed. And you look at it from the perspective of the Lions, there's value there. You would believe that based on the productivity, the Lions could have paid, and Aiden Hutchinson could have asked for much more. You have a player that's one of the top 5 defensive ends in all of the league and has still probably not yet even met his full potential. You're going to get Aiden Hutchinson in the prime of his career. You got him locked up. And now across the league, as many pundits are reviewing the terms of the deal, you look at it and you say, first and foremost, let's get the facts out of the way. The Lions drafted Aiden Hutchinson in 2022, which also includes a 5th-year option. So if you do the math, 2022, 23, 24, 25, and the 2026 season. So now the extension kicks in after that. So you get Aiden Hutchinson through the 2030 season. So you got him locked up for the next 5 years minimally. And you recognize this is a pillar of the defense. Many people respect Aiden Hutchinson. And most notably, they gained respect for one of the top defensive ends after he broke his tibia and fibula out there in Dallas, the extensive work that he had to do, now coming back stronger and being one of the forces along the defensive line. You really realize that's why Brad Holmes has just been adamant that the Lions do have one of the top defensive ends in the league. It's really hard to get 2 of them, but listen, the Detroit Lions at least now can bank on the fact that they have a young defensive end that is somebody that you can count on, has the right gritty mentality, is working daily against Penei Sewell. They're both players that help each other get better. So all in all, the across the league, everybody looks at that deal and says, wow, this is something that really is indicative of why Detroit has success. First of all, they came in, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell indicated that it wasn't a team that was going to be bought. It was going to be a team that was built through the draft. And it was going to be a team that was going to have great coaches work with the players to develop. And that's happened. A lot of players have gotten better, and you would expect them to keep getting better throughout their run in Detroit. The Lions built a core with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Aidan Hutchinson, and now you probably assume it's going to be Jack Campbell as well. A core foundation of young players in Kirby Joseph that not only have talent, but also execute. And once you foster that talent, you then got to pay them. And you got to pay them early in regards to potentially not having to pay the most expensive price. When you just look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, you could probably argue he can make $35 million based on his productivity. So for the Lions to agree to the terms is really great. And now some just additional details. Hutchinson's deal also includes a $29 million injury guarantee in 2029, and it converts to a fully guaranteed year in March of 2028. So in essence, the Lions are doing the due diligence in order to secure the services of a top player. And you realize with the market growing in a couple years, $45 million a year for a defensive end might be a steal. You might see the next wave get $51 million. So for the Lions to get this done early, and for Aiden, it just bodes well for the Lions. Now, it does, in a couple years, make it a little bit more difficult to bring back other guys. The cap is going to be an issue, but it's workable. The opportunities to sign players is still there, but there will be a decision made, most likely on Brian Branch or Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell. There will be some key decisions made. But that's down the road. The cap is going up $20 million every year. So that's in essence a free player. So, and you would expect that Jared Goff is going to restructure his mega deal, which will turn a lot of his, salary into a bonus, which will, when you rework the cap, will be agreeable for him to add roughly $40 to $45 million in cap space to the Lions. So this is just a great situation to look at how Jared Goff can help this team continue to thrive. And so, yeah, you're probably going to be with Jared Goff over the next 5-6 years when he does eventually restructure. But I wouldn't worry too much about players leaving because, look, you can pretty much trust that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have found a certain type of player that they want to bring here. And Aiden Hutchinson's one of them. I do look just for the very fact that he commands double teams, he commands attention. You see the benefits for a player like Al-Quadin Muhammad, who without Aiden Hutchinson is not going to have the season that he has. Aleem McNeil is not going to have the lanes to get through the gaps without an Aiden Hutchinson, a DJ Reader, a Tyleek Williams. It's all part of a puzzle. And so the Lions believe, and rightfully so, that Aiden Hutchinson is part of that puzzle. He's a productive player. He's an emotional leader. He's gritty. And look, when everybody looks at that deal, they go, wow. It's not as much as Micah Parsons, but it's indicative of the Lions and Aiden Hutchinson being willing to be workable to allow for this defense to thrive. Now, the question mark is going to be, do they have enough opposite of Aiden Hutchinson? Will they be now at the trade deadline? Will this pose, look, the Lions were not going to be major buyers in regards to the defensive end spot, but there's still opportunities to go out there and improve the team, maybe in terms of depth along the offensive line, maybe another defensive tackle, a cornerback. So we'll see at the trade deadline as it approaches. But when you look at the entire situation of the way in which the Lions handle their players, it's a great strategy. Draft, develop, sign. It's proven. It works. Now, the question mark's always going to be, is it going to work to the extent that Aiden Hutchinson's going to be on this team when they win a Super Bowl? You would think so. And I think that with continued growth, you got to remember, this is a young player that's in the 4th year of his rookie deal. So you got a player that is hungry, that understands the exact nature of what the Lions are looking for. I think he's benefited from having Casey Rogers work on this defensive line. You hope for some stability moving forward along the defense. And you realize that with Aiden Hutchinson, other players can be mixed and matched in and can have success. Just look at Al-Quadin Muhammad. I think that relationship is burgeoning, and you have an opportunity, at least for maybe this year or next year, to have some stability along that defensive line, especially when you have a young player in Tyleek Williams. You have Aleem McNeil in the fold. And so this defensive line has the potential to grow together and to be very stout and to continue to achieve their goals, which is 1, stop the run, be disruptive, and to be able to pressure and sack the quarterback. And man, it's just it's fun to see when an organization declares their mission, goes out and executes that mission, and it produces wins. Just the last couple years has showcased why the Lions are one of the premier teams in the NFC, and for the last couple of years have been strongly considered Super Bowl favorites. So it's a win-win. I don't see any negatives to this deal. Again, to reiterate, it's Aiden Hutchinson, 4 years, $180 million, 141 guaranteed, the most money ever guaranteed to a player that's a non-quarterback. So it's something good that the agent can feel good about, something good that the Lions and Aiden Hutchinson can feel good about, and the average salary per year is workable. It's not going to destroy the cap. It's going to put a nice dent, but well worth it. Great news for the Lions, as after the bye week, they secure the services of one of the top defensive ends. Aiden Hutchinson's in the fold for the foreseeable future, at least through the end of the 2030 NFL season.